My wife has been treating her yearly girls' trip like a free pass to cheat. My wife, Laura, 31F, and I, Mike, 33M, have been together for 11 years and married for 8. We have 4-year-old twins, a boy and a girl. The past 3 years have been incredible. We make time for weekly date nights, our sex life is consistent, and we have these deep conversations that make us feel truly connected. Financially, things are going great too. Both of our careers are on the rise. It wasn't always this smooth, but it was never terrible either. We've grown up together, dealt with typical couple issues in our 20s, and every hurdle just seemed to make us stronger. That's why what I found out 2 days ago hit me so hard. Laura has been cheating on me. Every June, Laura and her best friend Jess go on a girls' trip. It's something they've done since they were 18. They usually pick a nearby tourist spot, spend the weekend shopping, lounging by a pool, or indulging in spa treatments. Nothing wild or suspicious. This year's trip was already planned and coming up in a couple of weeks. The other day, I was on our bank account app, and it asked for a security verification. I clicked through, but it needed to send a code via text, and Laura's phone is linked to the account. Not wanting to wake her since she was napping, I grabbed her phone. Normally, I'd ask, but she was asleep. I knew her passcode. She uses the same one for everything, so I unlocked her phone. Right away, I saw Snapchat open on her screen, and there was a message from Jess that said, "Are you really going to go through with it?" I had this gut feeling that something was off. I thought for a moment, then typed a response pretending to be Laura. "Why wouldn't I?" Jess quickly replied, "I'm just saying, 2 guys at once is pretty intense." My heart sank. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I knew I couldn't keep up the act, so I stopped replying and started scrolling through the rest of her snaps. There were 2 guys in the photos, and I vaguely recognized them from Laura's past. But since it's Snapchat, there wasn't much to see. Everything was gone. I kept digging through her phone, finding nothing in her texts or emails. Then, I spotted a weirdly named folder with WhatsApp in it. That's where I found the messages. Laura was chatting with her high school ex, Brian, 31 million, making plans for their upcoming girls' trip. It wasn't explicit, no steamy texts or pictures, but the messages were flirty, and they were definitely planning to meet at the hotel. Even worse, Brian was bringing his college roommate, Dave, 32 million, who was also Laura's second boyfriend. I was in shock. I couldn't believe she'd do this, and I started wondering how long it had been going on. There weren't a ton of messages, but it was clear this wasn't the first time Brian had joined her on these girls' trips. I knew Jess would soon figure out that last message didn't come from Laura, so I had no choice but to confront her when she woke up. She finally woke up about 45 agonizing minutes later, grabbed her phone, and didn't even notice me sitting in the corner of the room. She checked her snaps, sent a few back to Jess, and then it clicked. She realized I had been on her phone. She looked over, spotting me for the first time, and snapped, "Did you go through my phone?" I didn't even get the chance to speak before she started accusing me of invading her privacy. I couldn't believe she was trying to turn this on me. I fired back, telling her I knew about the cheating, about Brian and Dave, and that her trip with Jess was a cover. She tried to deny it all, saying I was reading too much into things, trying to gaslight me by insisting she was just catching up with old friends and didn't tell me because she knew I'd react this way. It was all crap. I was so furious that it all erupted into a shouting match. I told her I wanted a divorce, and she threw back, "Really? You're going to throw away over 10 years because of a few messages?" She made it sound like I was the one walking away, and that pushed me over the edge. I snapped and said the one thing I knew would hit her the hardest. "I'm not the one throwing it away, you selfish bitch." I knew that would get to her. She hates that word with a passion, even when it's just on TV. She's never been that mad, but it worked. She blew up, screaming, "I do this for us." I was stunned, but she kept going, ranting like she'd been holding it all in. "Why do you think our relationship keeps getting better every damn year? I deserve this. It's my one weekend to let loose. to deal with all the crap from the year. It resets me. If you can't understand that, that's on you. So what if I cross a few lines? Aren't you happy with our life? We've got it good, and all it costs is me getting a weekend off once a year." She paused, her tone softening but still firm. "I get it. Your pride's hurt. But this isn't about you. It's about me. You've got a great life, and I just need this once a year. You need to make peace with it. Don't ruin a good thing because you're angry." I was floored. I felt dizzy, my chest tight, like I was suffocating. I couldn't even respond. I just got up, walked out, and drove straight to my brother Dan's place. When I got there, I texted her, "I'm at Dan's, please don't contact me, I need time." It's been 2 days since then, and I've been lying low at my brother's, just saying we're dealing with some normal marital issues. Every morning she messages me asking me to come home and talk, and I just reply, "Not yet." I'm completely lost. I've never felt so hurt or been treated so heartlessly. I love her, but this is too much. I plan to go home tomorrow to try and sort this out, but honestly, I don't see how we can ever get past this. 8 years later. I can't believe it's been 8 years since everything went down. I had all but forgotten about my old posts until I stumbled across a Facebook reel with a robot voice reading my story. It got me feeling nostalgic, so I thought I'd drop an update for any of you long-timers who might remember. Leslie, Donald's wife, went absolutely nuclear when she found out. She was a stay-at-home mom, and when she got my email, it confirmed all her suspicions. At first, she directed her anger at Laura, but soon realized Don was the real problem. Leslie dug deeper and uncovered even more affairs, along with thousands of dollars spent on OnlyFans over the years. She ended up with the right judge, and Don was ordered to pay both alimony and child support. And if that wasn't enough, Leslie aired all the dirty laundry on social media the moment their divorce was finalized. It was quite the spectacle. As for John, I don't know much. Laura told me he went off the grid after I messaged his wife. About 2 years ago, he popped up in my friend's suggestions on Facebook. When I clicked on his profile, it looked like he was single and living about 1,500 miles away. Scarlett's divorce was swift. She blamed Laura for her marriage ending and cut her off completely. Because of our shared social circles, I've still heard bits and pieces of her situation. Scarlett had a prenup with an infidelity clause, so she ended up with only a quarter of what she would have normally received in a divorce. Her ex also figured out who her affair partner was and exposed him, which led to his own divorce. Scarlett and the guy eventually went public with their relationship, and she got pregnant about a year in. But, surprise, surprise, it's been a disaster. He's still cheating, just now on her instead of with her. She's gained a lot of weight, and mutual friends say she's just a shell of her former self. She won't leave him because she's too determined to make it work. Otherwise, everything she sacrificed would have been for nothing. Now, about Laura. She initially tried to fight the divorce, but that didn't last long. She signed off, and the whole process took about 6 months. During that time, she kept trying to convince me to reconcile, but her level of delusion was enough for me to never even consider it. The twins always said she was great when they were with her, but I knew she was on a self-destructive path when she was on her own. She fell into a cycle of drinking and partying, which often ended with her reaching out to work things out. This escalated when Kate, my now wife, and I went official. One night, Laura drank too much, drove, wrecked her car, and ended up with broken bones and a lengthy stint in physical therapy. The wreck also brought some legal trouble, but it served as a wake-up call, pushing her to finally start therapy. Therapy has been a game changer for her. She's confronted her narcissistic behaviors and unrealistic beliefs. It took a few years, but she eventually gave me a genuine apology for her infidelity, admitting that she wasn't doing it for us. She's been a fantastic co-parent since, and we're pretty friendly now. The twins' birthdays and other events are often celebrated together without any drama. About 3 years ago, Laura met someone and they're in a poly relationship, which didn't exactly shock me. They got married last year, but she still has her boyfriend of 2 years. Occasionally, all of them show up at the same events, and I've just learned to roll with it. Her dad, Gary, didn't take it so well. He cut Laura and the twins out of his life, which led to my former mother-in-law divorcing him. Now he's just a lonely, bitter old drunk. As for me, life's been good. When the divorce was finalized, I had every intention of living it up and dating around. I downloaded the apps and matched with a few women, but then I went on a date with Kate, now 37 degrees Fahrenheit, who was also freshly divorced and looking to enjoy some freedom. Our first date went great, and she stayed over. We ended up spending the next day together and kept messaging all week. She canceled a date with someone else so we could spend the next weekend together. I stopped chatting with the other women I had matched with, and we both deleted the apps. Before we knew it, we were in a committed relationship. Now, we've been together for nearly 8 years, married for 6, and we have a 3-year-old daughter. So, even though our plans to play the field didn't pan out, things worked out just fine. I don't know if I'll ever update again, but thanks to everyone who followed my story, offered advice, and sent well wishes. Who would have thought that simply checking a bank account could lead to 6 divorces, a poly marriage, and me becoming a 42-year-old dad to a toddler? Life's funny like that. Now on to the next story, story 2. My ex-wife, 38F, got married to my best friend, 35M, and it's tearing me apart. It's completely wrecked my own marriage. I've been with my wife, Emma, for 5 years now, and we've been married for 4. I'm 37 and she's 26. She has 3 kids from her previous relationships, 2 boys and a girl, all between 5 and 8 years old. I love her and the kids like they're my own. Things were great until a few months ago. I've worked hard and got 3 big promotions in 5 years, and we bought a house last year. Emma stays home with the kids, trying to make a career out of social media. I've always been unsure about having kids, but Emma really wanted one of our own, so I agreed to reverse my vasectomy. She's 7 months pregnant now, and we were over the moon. My ex-wife, Megan, divorced me back in 2019 and moved about 2 hours away during the pandemic. Our split was friendly, but after the divorce was finalized, I never heard from her again, even though I'd still reach out on her birthdays and holidays. I even sent her a graduation gift when she finished her PhD. Other friends, including my parents and sister-in-law, who also sent gifts, received thank you cards from her. I didn't even get a text. Megan was always kind and thoughtful, and the person I knew would have at least sent a simple thank you message, even to someone she wasn't on good terms with. Despite our breakup, I didn't think she hated me. Then there's my best friend, Jake. We've been tight since college, and he's the kind of guy everyone considers their best friend. But he always said I was his real one. We lost touch a bit during the pandemic. He lives 2 hours away, and he's busy with his job as a lawyer and a university lecturer. My life was crazy too, with my demanding job, a new wife, and 3 kids. I didn't even notice when our texts started to dwindle, and the last time he responded was late in 2021. Jake has a habit of going quiet whenever he's wrapped up in a new relationship, only reappearing when things calm down. We've always been those friends who could go months without talking and then pick up right where we left off. I kept telling myself I'd call him when life was less hectic. Last summer, Emma and I went to the city where Jake and Megan live for a week. I called Jake a few times, hoping we could meet up, but he never answered. I was bummed, but I just figured he was busy with work or maybe caught up with someone new. I met up with other friends instead. Then, in October, I went back to the city for a Halloween party, thinking Jake might show up. He was there. I went over to greet him, but he looked surprised and gave me a weak hug. I told him I'd been around in the summer and had tried calling him to hang out. He just said, "Yeah, I was on my honeymoon that week. Sorry I didn't get back to you." I was stunned. My best friend got married, and I hadn't even known he was seeing someone serious. I felt hurt, but also happy for him because, well, he's a great guy and women always liked him. I started asking rapid-fire questions. Who is she? What's her name? Where did you meet her? How long have you been together? He paused, then said, It's Megan. Megan isn't a super rare name, but it's not common either. When he said her name, I knew he meant my ex-wife. The moment he said it, I felt like my stomach dropped, and I wanted to crawl into a hole. I've never felt that way before. I just managed to say, What the hell? He told me I had no right to be mad, that I broke her heart, and that they hadn't started dating until 2 years after our divorce. He also threw in a jab about how I'd chosen to be with some waitress instead. I spent the rest of that weekend drinking because it was the only way I could get any sleep. I felt completely betrayed. My best friend of 17 years married my ex-wife behind my back. Megan and I were married for 6 years, and Jake and Megan were never even close friends. But now they're in love? I later found out he'd been bad-mouthing Emma and me behind my back, saying he never liked my new wife. When I got back home, I was distant with Emma and the kids. I was just hurting so much, and it showed. A few weeks went by, and after a big argument, Emma called me out on being so withdrawn and accused me of cheating. I finally told her about Megan and Jake, and she just rolled her eyes and said she'd known about them for a long time from social media. I lost it. We argued for hours. I felt like she had betrayed me too, keeping that from me the whole time. She never said anything when I complained about Jake not returning my calls or messages. That night I didn't get any sleep before work, and afterward, I just went to stay with my parents for a few days. When I finally went back home, we got into another argument. Emma accused me of still being in love with Megan and said that if I didn't care, I wouldn't be so upset. I snapped and called her stupid, telling her she wouldn't understand because she doesn't have real friends. I tried to explain that I wouldn't care if my ex-wife married anyone else, but it's different when it's your best friend. I don't see why that's so hard to understand. We eventually made up, but I still feel sick to my stomach every day, and our relationship isn't the same. I love Emma, but I've come to realize it's not in the same way I loved Megan, and it feels like Emma doesn't love me the way Megan did either. I've started to regret the things that led to my divorce, because Megan and I were really happy until the day she left. And now, my best friend is too busy sleeping with my ex-wife to care about me anymore, so I don't even have him to lean on. Everything feels empty and fake now. A lot of my friends agree that Jake and Megan betrayed me, but they all say I need to move on. Even my dad and brother told me to let it go. My sister-in-law yelled at me about it, and my mom tries to comfort me, but I know she's tired of hearing my problems. I have to pretend I'm okay, but I'm not. No one really cares about men's mental health, and it feels like I'm alone in this. I brought up the idea of couples therapy to Emma, but she brushed it off, saying we were fine because we'd worked through things. So, I guess I just have to keep pretending everything's fine because divorce isn't an option right now. I need advice on how to get closure. I've thought about driving to their city and just showing up to make them talk to me, to help me move on. Is that too much? I also don't know how to get Emma to see why it's hard to trust her after she kept such a big secret from me for so long. This is sort of an update to my last post, and I'm hoping for advice on how to deal with all this. I've tried to write this update a few times, but it's hard to make sense of everything, so I'm just going to dump it all out here. I guess I should start by admitting I have way more issues than I mentioned in my first post, or even realized back then. Therapy is helping me uncover a lot of that, and it's uncomfortable on the good days and crushing on the bad ones. So many people talk about feeling better after therapy, but honestly, I feel worse. Still, I'm sticking with it because, as hard as it is, it's helping me figure out better ways to handle things. It's also helping me understand myself a bit more. I know I've been a shitty person, but I wasn't always like this. I'm starting to see where things went wrong, and understanding that feels like the only way I can work on fixing myself. I did inpatient therapy, and now that I'm out, I see a therapist in her office once a week and virtually once a week. I also see a psychiatrist every 2 weeks and started on some medication. It's weird because I can feel the meds helping some parts of my brain, but they also dull other parts and make my body feel off. I try to explain it to the doctor, but he just says it'll take time for the meds to fully work and that I'll get used to them eventually. Emma had the baby while I was in therapy, but she told me there was a chance the baby wasn't mine. I grieved over that, but I tried not to dwell on it too much until we knew for sure. The results came back last week, and it turns out the baby isn't mine. Right now, we haven't made any decisions about our relationship. We're living together for the kids and to help her recover from childbirth. Emma said that if I didn't want to be with her anymore, she'd go back to her home state to live with her mom and stepdad. She also mentioned that she wouldn't be entitled to alimony or child support because of our state laws. But I told her I'd help her get back home and on her feet if that's what it comes down to. Since coming home, I've been more involved as a dad, and it's been good for me. Being active with the kids helps me forget about everything else, at least in the moment. But it would be a lie to say I'm not terrified of losing them if we split up, especially since they aren't biologically or legally mine. I worry a lot about their future and just want them to have a safe, stable, and happy childhood. I'm really heartbroken that the baby isn't mine. I wanted her to be mine more than anything, but for some reason, I just can't bring myself to be angry with Emma. I cheated on Megan with her, so in some way, it feels like karma catching up to me. And honestly, what could I really expect when our relationship started off like it did? There's also a part of me that gets why Emma did what she did. We're both damaged in our own ways, and we've lived through some similar tough stuff growing up. I don't want to go into all the details, but we both experienced things as kids that bonded us in ways we never really dealt with. I had a lot of privilege and more opportunities than Emma, so I thought I was okay because I didn't think about it much. But she never stopped thinking about it, and it's clear she wasn't okay. Megan, my ex-wife, is an incredible person, and she deserves happiness. I ended up sending her an email where I poured my heart out, apologizing for all the pain I caused her. I told her that I would do anything to take away the hurt I put her through, and I didn't expect her to respond. I also promised her that I wouldn't try to contact her again after this. Megan reached out to my brother a few times to check on me, and she's called me twice. We talked for hours, and I found out she's doing really well. She's genuinely happy, and I'm proud of her. I feel lucky to have had the years with her that I did. But I know it's time to accept that I messed things up and try to be better moving forward. I don't think I'll ever reach out to her again, but I'd be glad to hear from her if she ever decides to call. It still stings, but I've come to terms with the fact that that chapter of my life is closed. The door with Jake is closed too. We haven't spoken, and we probably never will. I've heard from other friends that he was always in love with Megan, and he's the one who convinced her to move to his city after our divorce. Knowing that actually helps, because the version of events I had in my head was much worse. I also understand why nobody wanted to tell me about it. My brother and I have grown close again, though his wife isn't thrilled about it. I honestly don't know where I'd be without him right now. We had them over for dinner recently, and there was this moment where his wife and I were alone in a room. I apologized to her, and she hugged me, saying I was stupid, but that she knows I'm trying. I've got two really solid friends who've stuck by me through all of this, even though they've been clear from the start that they don't approve of my choices. They're all more support than I deserve. My relationship with my parents isn't great right now. They're upset because my brother confronted them about what happened to me as a kid, and now they feel like he's blaming them. They keep saying they did the best they could, and I think they're embarrassed too. I get it. I don't blame them because I don't think they knew what to do. But I'm not going to apologize either, so until I do, they're keeping their distance. This might not be the update anyone wanted to read, but it's all I've got. My life feels like it's still in pieces, but I'm trying to put it back together and mend some of the damage I've caused. I'd recommend therapy like everyone suggested to me, but I'll also say that it's tough because it forces you to be brutally honest, and that can reopen old wounds. But those wounds are like infections. You have to clean them out to heal, and that's going to hurt. But I don't think there's any other way to get better. I'm just trying to figure out what the best decision is for the kids and for myself. Should I keep trying to work things out with Emma, or would it be better to make a clean break? I want to do what's right for the kids, but I'm struggling to know what that is.